Want to welcome everybody to our Back to Class with Achieve webinar today. My name is Will Hassler, and I'll be taking you through Achieve and excited to talk to you about some new and exciting things we have within Achieve. Right now, you are in listen-only mode. We still want to hear from you, though, so there's a couple things here just as kind of how to set things up. You'll see that you can minimize and expand your GoToWebinar panel by using this arrow here. You can also toggle full screen mode or window mode here with your little icon here on the left. And this is where we'd like you to ask questions. So under the question tab here, you'll be able to ask any questions that you have. Feel free to ask those as we go along. Also, we'll have some time at the end for a Q&A session to make sure we get all of your questions answered. I have some colleagues monitoring that. They'll respond as needed, and also let me know if there's any questions we need to address in the moment. And then if for whatever reason your screen is not showing up, you're not seeing the webinar, go ahead and click on the GoToWebinar icon in your app tray, and you'll be able to bring that right back up. So I think that's all of the basic housekeeping stuff we want to take care of today. So a little bit about today's agenda and a little bit by way of introduction. I've been working with Macmillan for the past 13 years, and I work with instructors across all different disciplines, and for the last while, focused mainly on Achieve and this transition to Achieve and helping instructors get the most out of it. And so I've learned a lot. I've talked with a lot of instructors and really have a good sense of things that have helped and will help. And that's kind of what we focus this meeting around today is. First off, we're going to talk a little bit about getting ready for a new term, a few hints and best practices to get started. Also, we're going to dive into what's new. We've got a lot of new features and functionality that we've added to Achieve that we want to make sure that you're aware of. So we'll take some good time and talk about those. And then also, again, we want to make sure your questions are answered. So we're going to take time for that. And feel free as we go through to put those questions in as needed. So with that being said, we're going to start right in with Achieve. So this is what my course list looks like. Yours may look somewhat similar, and if you're finishing some courses out, they may still be here under current courses, and then you may have some draft courses, and then if you've taught before, you'll have your past courses here. So first thing I want to go over is how to set up and how to start a new term, a new semester with Achieve. So first thing, if you've never taught before, you may have a draft course that you could use as your starting off point, but you also have the ability to create a new course. So if you haven't used Achieve before, you're starting off fresh, up here in this top corner, creating a new course is the best way to get started. Also, you may be teaching a different course than you taught last term, or a new course, or maybe you had kind of a practice run and tried a lot of different things and you want to set things up differently, but you want to start from scratch. That's where you're going to start here with create a new course. The first thing that you'll have the option to do when you're creating a new course is selecting the course template. Now, this is the Macmillan title or Achieve title that you'll be using. So if you're doing an introductory chemistry course or a biology course, you can select your template and from there create and set up your course. Now, you have this option if you're teaching an individual course to just set that up individually. So you have one section you're teaching of that particular course, you'll go with that option. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this in just a moment, but if you're going to be teaching multiple sections of a single course, setting up a section manager is a good way to do that and helps minimize some of the additional work that goes along with that. So we're going to revisit that in just a moment. But again, if you're starting off fresh, you want a new course, that's where you're going to come, is to create a new course. So we're going to come back to my course list. And in this case, last term I taught a General Chemistry 101 course. And this is the course that I set up and I want to use as my foundation for this next term. And so what I can do is, if I go all the way over here on the right, I have these 3 dots that are my course settings. So I can open that up, and what I can do is create a copy of the course that I previously used. So again, if you set up your assignment, you liked what you had, you may want to make a few edits, but you want to start with what you worked on before, you can go ahead and make a copy of any of your past courses. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Copy Course. And then once I do, I have this same option. If I'm just teaching a single section, I can start from there and go at it. Or if I'm going to be teaching multiple sections, we are going to go here and create a section manager. Now, one more thing I will note, we're going to hop back to my course list here. If you used a section manager in the past, you'll have this past section manager option here. And you do have the option of copying your section manager over that you used last time. So that's another option. If you, again, had that section manager set up in a way that you liked it, it was working well, you can come here to section manager and make sure that you make a copy of that to work from. So let's circle back to my Chem 101 course. I'm going to come back here to course settings and click on copy course. In this case, I'm going to set up a few sections. So I'm going to create a section manager. And next, I'm going to set my course info. So here's where we can title my course. And I'm going to change this to spring of 22. And then update my course code and make sure my institution is selected. Here I have my term, and the term start date is what we're going to set here. So my term start date, this doesn't necessarily have to be the date in which your classes actually start, but it's the day that you want students to be able to start to register. So for example, I may leave it on Friday. If my classes start next Monday, I could move it to another date. But for now, we're going to leave it at for today. And then we'll set our end date. And this is the date the classes end. We'll select that. You'll notice this is a new option here that you can actually put in a time as to when you want that course to open, and then a time when you want things to end. So that's one of those new features that we've added. We had some good feedback that if classes started on Monday, they didn't want the course to open till maybe after they met with students, or you can adjust that time, and especially end date, you may want that course to end right after the final ends. So you have a little bit more control over that term start date and end date. The next thing on course setup that we've adjusted is the week that you want to start this on. So we'll get into this, but once you see your assignments, what's past due, what's due next week and due the next, you can now select what day your week starts on. So if you have a lot of things due on Sunday from the previous week, you may want your week to start on Monday, so that everything is organized in that chunk of days that best represents how you want to set things up. So if we come down to course permissions, just as a review, we're setting up our section manager. So we're setting up multiple sections that are going to be linked to our section manager or our parent course. Now, I recommend in almost all situations to at least start off with restricted access section. Now, what this does is it preserves the link between your section manager and your individual section, so that any changes you need to make midterm you can make once within that section manager, and have that come down and apply to each of your individual sections. Now, there's a few things that you're not able to do within each individual section because it is restricted access. For example, you wouldn't be able to add specific content to a specific section while you were in that section. But what you can do is add that content in the section manager and hide it in the different sections where you didn't want that particular content to show up. But for the most part, you'll have the flexibility, the ability to edit, change due dates, give student extensions, everything like that within those individual sections, even though it's restricted access. So again, I recommend starting off there, and then if needed, you could toggle back to full access. But once you select full access, you can't move it back to be a restricted access section. So next, we're going to create our section manager. And by way of navigation, you'll see we're here in our section manager tab, not in our courses yet. We don't have our sections created, so they're not showing up here under courses. So we'll continue on with our section manager. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the section manager that I just created. And we're going to set a few things up. We're going to adjust a few things on our section manager first, go over a few settings, and then we're going to go ahead and create our section. So first off, you'll see we're looking at this by course content. Now, this is one of the changes that we've made as well. So if I'm viewing by assignments, and for instance, I want to take a look at my resources, I look for my instructor resources, and then I come back to my course, I'm still going to be looking by assignments. So now the view of how you look at the home page is saved. So whenever you come back here to the home page, it is set up the way it is viewing the way that you last saw it. And that helps with setting things up and keeping things a little more cohesive. One other improvement that we've made here to our home page is we've added a calendar view. And we'll revisit this again just as we are assigning more things, but this is a basic calendar view, gives you a good visual of what assignments you have set up, where they're at, and especially how spacing is and things like that. So we're adding additional features and functionality to this very soon. Right now, it's a basic calendar view, but stay tuned for some additional changes coming here and enhancements to this calendar. So we've set up our section manager. We copied our course that we used last term. And so I'm going to start here and I want to look at assignments. So if you see here, I have some past assignments. I don't have anything this week or next week or in the future because I haven't adjusted any due dates yet. I just copied over my course. Again, I'm in that section manager. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click View All. And this is going to give me my list of all of my homework assignments that I had set up in my previous course. And so the quickest way to update the due dates and change things here is I'm going to click this little box at the top next to pre-work, and that's going to select all of my assignments that I previously had assigned. Next, I'm going to click on Assign and Edit. And this is going to pull up my page where I can update all of my visibility and all of my due dates all at once. So what I can do here is update things one at a time. So instead of last November, maybe my chapter 19 homework is going to be due sometime in April. So I can set that up individually, one at a time for when you want those to be due. Alternatively, what we can do is I can edit all my dates and visibility at once. So if I'm working and I want everything to be due all at once, so maybe I have this selected by units that are all due at one midterm, I can have a single due date there. I can also have all my assignments due on a single day and have them separated out by week. So in this case, we're going to select January 16th on that Sunday, and then every week another assignment is going to be due. You can also adjust visibility. So if you don't want your students to be able to see all of the assignments from the beginning, you can adjust and change that and do that again all at once, or we can go back and do that individually. So for our course, we're going to go ahead and save that and adjust everything. Also, you'll see my points are already set up. I could leave those as is, but maybe I decided, oh, for my syllabus this year, all my homeworks are going to be worth 50 points instead of 100. So I can update all of that as well. Same thing with gradebook categories. You could edit all those gradebook categories all here at once. Just a recommendation, if you're going to add gradebook categories, you'll want to do that before getting to this page, or you'll have to come back, which isn't a huge deal. But I'll show you where to do that here in just a moment. So we've updated all of our assignments, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. And if we come back to my assignments, you'll see there's nothing past due anymore. There's nothing due this week. And looks like we're going to be teaching in reverse order. So we're going to start with chapter 19 and work our way backwards. Probably not exactly how you'd want to set things up, but just to give you an example of how things are, we'll start with chapter 19 homework. You'll have the due date here, and then you can work through your other assignments as well. And if at any time you need to change that due date, you can do that individually here on the right, update the due date and save your changes. Or like we did before, we can go ahead and select all of our assignments and come back to assign and edit and change everything all at once. So we've gone in, we've adjusted our assignments, we've changed our due dates, and all that is done in our section manager. Because now that section manager, once we create our sections, any additional change that we make within our section manager is going to filter down into our individual section. So let's go ahead and create our individual sections now. So up at the top, we're going to click on Create Sections. And you'll see this is our course info we set up when we set up our individual section manager. If you need to adjust or make any changes here, you can. Then down here at the bottom, let's create 3 different sections. Again, we're going to start off as restricted access section and then create those sections. So scroll back down to the bottom here, and we've got our 3 sections set up. I can label each of these sections either a section number, maybe you have a CRN number, or maybe you want to label these as the time you meet. However you want to set it up to distinguish between the 3 different sections, you can do that as well. Now, just as a reminder, if you're the one who's created the section manager, you can go ahead and add individuals to each section if there's going to be another instructor teaching it, or if they're going to be co-teaching. Again, that option is available if you are the owner of that section manager and have created the individual section. If you need to have an instructor added to an individual course that was outside of a section manager, you can just send the instructor's email address as well as the course ID for that specific course into our customer support team, and they can add that for you. And just as a reminder, we'll touch on this again, but if at any point you do need help, you can click on the little blue icon with question mark here and click on Help and Training, visit our support community, and right there you can contact support and get the help that you need. So let's go ahead and save these sections. And and we're going to view the sections here. So I've set up my 3 individual sections now within my section manager. And I'm going to go here and click on courses. And now you'll see I've got my 3 individual sections. They're under current courses, and they're under current courses because my start date was today. If you set up that start date in the future, after you set this up, they're going to be located here in draft courses. But as soon as that start date rolls around, those courses are automatically going to populate under current courses, and they're going to be available for students to register. So let's go ahead and open up a course here. Now remember, we're here inside of one of our individual sections. So here's just a little bit of a reminder here that that's where we're in. Now, even though we're in this individual section, we can still change quite a bit of things. So maybe in this case, my Chapter 19 homework, we are going to have this section, have it be due on Tuesday instead. So I can definitely change that there. I can also update and change all of my dates at the same time, same way that you would do within the section manager. Now, another thing that we've added here is if I click on the date here, and if you'll remember down here is create student exception. So this is for students who there was some reason they were not able to complete the assignment on time, and you want to grant them some extra time to do that. So here under exception, that's where you would find the student's name. You would pick the additional due date of how much time you wanted to give them, and then you would save that student exception. Also, if this was a timed assignment and you needed to allow for certain accommodations, you would have the ability to find those specific students, extend that time here, and then save that as well. So what we've added is the ability to create exception groups. So if there's multiple students in a single course that need the same accommodations, or maybe you have a few athletes in your course that are all going to be gone at the same time, what we can do is set up a group of students that you can add the same exceptions to all at once. So to create that group, we're going to come over here on the left-hand side, open up our menu, and click on People. Now, once we open up this, we're going to click on our exception groups. And I can go ahead and create a new group, and I can edit that group. I can call it whatever I want. And then I can add students. And all of your students that will be in your course will appear here in your roster, and you'll be able to add them to this group. And then when you're back on that exception screen, all you'll need to do is search for that group, and you'll be able to add an exception for that entire group of students at the same time, rather than having to do it one by one. So let's go back into our Chapter 19 homework. And we're going to go ahead and actually what I want to do is we're going to go back to our section manager. So I want to show you some new grading settings that we have available for right within Achieve. But within the section manager, because we're in a restricted access, we don't have access to create new templates, and this is something that's applied to all of our sections. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to head back to our section manager to go over some of those grading settings. So we'll head back to my course list and then click on section managers and open this section manager back up. So let's open up our Chapter 19 homework, and then go ahead and click on Grading Settings. So the first thing I want to show you are these multi-take quizzes. So this is a new setting template, as well as one that you can add to your own custom template. And what this does is this allows the student to take a quiz up to 5 times, and then the student's score, their highest score, will be the one that gets recorded in the gradebook. So rather than attempting each question a number of times, this has the students complete the entire quiz once, all the questions, and then if desired, the student could go back and attempt that quiz again. Now, every time they attempt the quiz, if you are using pools of questions, those pools of questions randomize, and often students are going to get different questions, and as well as variables or algorithmic questions, those variables will change each time the student retakes that quiz. So kind of a fun and different way to look at quizzing, and something we're continuing to change and make adjustments to, but it's available now, something you can try out with your students and be able to give them multiple attempts on a single quiz. The other thing that some of you will be happy to know is, if you're like me, I've set up a lot of different grading policies, and many of these are ones that I no longer use or I no longer want anymore. So you now have the ability to delete a grading policy, and these will be your custom ones that you've created. So I can go ahead and delete any of those that I've got so that they're not going to clutter up my dashboard, and I can really focus down on the ones that I really use and are the ones that I found most effective. We have a few more grading settings I want to point out. So we're going to go ahead and click on Create New. So just by way of reminder, you can set up your own templates here. You can name them. You've got your homework mode or your quiz mode. You'll see that you can set up your own multi-take quiz assignment as well. So if you have some specific settings there, you can do that as well. This gives you a little look at what the responses are going to look like. You'll see how many takes that student attempted there, and then what per score they got on each of those attempts. But again, that highest score is going to be the one that goes into the grade book. We've also adjusted our solution visibility, so you have more control over this. So whether you want the students to be able to see the solutions after they've completed each assignment or each question, or if you want it after the due date, you can also have those solutions show up a certain number of days after the due date, or never. If you want those to be hidden from students, you've got that option as well. The other thing that we've now put in is require a password. And so what this does is the student won't be able to access the specific assignment until they have entered the password here that is automatically generated. So if you're doing a high stakes assignment, something that you want to make sure that students are accessing at a certain time, you can definitely put in a password here and make sure that students can access anything until they have that password. So those are the main changes that we've added to grading settings. As always, we're always looking for feedback. So if you do have any specific feedback here on the grading settings or anything else within Achieve, please let us know. We're always working to make things better for you as the instructor and also for your students. So send us any feedback that you do have, as we're always constantly making changes and improving what we have.
Okay, we have lots of questions. People have been keeping me busy here, which is good. No napping today.
Excellent.
So We'll go back to the very beginning. For multiple sections, can you set up the sections so that you have some courses that are running on a Monday, Wednesday schedule and some that are running on a Tuesday, Thursday schedule?
Yes, so great question. So you definitely can. And so when you set up your sections from your section manager, you'll just choose which format, if this is going to be Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. And so you'll set that up in your section manager. And then when we go into our individual sections, if we say, here's my Tuesday, Thursday section, I can go here under my assignments, and I would just go ahead and select all of my assignments here. And once I have them all selected, then I would come back under here under assign and edit, and then change the due dates for my Tuesday, Thursday course. And because we're in that individual section, we're only going to be adjusting that Tuesday, Thursday due dates as opposed to everything. And then you'll have that set up so you can have your Monday, Wednesday course and then your Tuesday, Thursday course.
Can you do deep integration of each section to the corresponding LMS?
Yes, absolutely. And so what that deep integration allows for you to do is take each individual section and link it to a section of your Blackboard or Canvas or D2L course. And then that deep integration allows individual assignment links to be linked right within your LMS. And then also the grade book. So anything that the students complete here in the grade book, those grades then will sync automatically to your gradebook in your LMS.
Okay, let's see here. Can you show somebody how to create an assignment, just a basic for someone who's new? Oh, wait, actually, she has left and she told me she was super new and is actually going to sign up for training instead. So let's ignore that. Can you did this a little bit, and I apologize because I was answering all the questions while you were talking. Can you talk a little bit about the options for students who want to have, professors who want to allow a late submission?
Yeah, sure. So there's some options here. So we talked a little bit about the student exceptions, and that's a little bit different than late submissions. So just to clarify, if you're creating a student exception, that is giving a student that extra time to complete the assignment, essentially for full credit, whether you're deducting for late work or not. Setting up that exception for that student will allow that student to have full credit for the assignment. Now we can set up a specific assignment to deduct a certain percentage of points for it being turned in late. And to do that, you go to the grading settings. And again, I'm going to circle back to my section manager here. And so you can set it up so that you can have various ways, whether you want the student to have a certain number of days to have late work done. So right here down at the bottom, when you're creating a grading setting, you can allow late submissions. And you can set up a certain number of days as to when you want late submissions to be able to be turned in. And you have the option, it can be no penalty. You can have 10% per day if you want, or just a flat penalty of no matter when they turn it in late within those 5 days, they would get 50% off. So that's where you would come to allow late submissions, but for a penalty.
Thank you. We had a couple people with questions on that. Okay. Let's see here. I don't know if you have time. So, okay, let's see here. Can students go back and take the quiz again for practice? I haven't answered this one because I think it depends on the quiz, but I'll let you take it.
Yeah, so it depends on how you have it set up. If you have the quiz set up just as a single attempt, um, no, they can't go back in and complete it for practice. They can go back and review it if you have it available for them to review, but they can't just go back and take it for practice. At least not the quiz itself. We have another resource within Achieve called Learning Curve or Adaptive Quizzes. And those, yes, after the student completes it, they can go back in and continue to review questions after the due date. So essentially for practice, no additional score or anything like that. But that is a resource that they can go back in and use for practice. And again, it's either called Learning Curve or Adaptive Quiz, depending on the Achieve title that you're using.
Would you recommend using the section manager even when you're only teaching one section?
If you're only teaching one section, I don't think there's any need to create the section manager. I would just go and create that individual course, as we talked about at the beginning, and then just have that be your single section that you teach. There's really not any advantages to use a section manager with a single section.
Can you show how to get to the grading settings if you are not in the section manager, if you're in a single course?
Sure. So it's going to be similar. So regardless of if you're in the section manager or a single course, the first thing you want to do is open up an assessment. So it's a homework or some other type of assessment. And then you'll come to this screen, and on the right hand side, you'll see grading settings. And so if you're in an individual section, a restricted access section, you'll still be able to see this, but you won't be able to change anything. But if you're in an individual course not connected to a section manager, then yes, just open up any homework assignment that's available, and that grading settings item option will be there on the right-hand side.
All right, there's lots of questions in here. Is there an area separate from assigned work where students can find practice questions?
Yeah, so you could set that up in your individual course. So if I'm viewing instead of by assignments, I can come back to course content. Lots of options have a math review or something like that. So that's one option that you could have students just have access to and assign. But if I open up any one of my chapters, you'll see that here's a separate homework assignment that I didn't have assigned. And so if I just want students to be able to use that for practice, I can click on the little calendar icon and just have it available to students but not assigned. So that way they can use that as a review tool or something that's available to them, but that won't count in the grade book. So there's lots of resources within Achieve that you can set up to just have the practice or study helps for the individual students if they choose to go in and use those. What other questions do we have there? Let's see here.
I'm sorry, I was talking with the mute on. So one thing I'm just going to answer on the multi-take. Students have up to 5 attempts. Right now, the student does not have to take all 5 attempts, but you as the instructor do not yet have the option to say, I only want to give them 3. it's 5 is the sort of the only option. We released it and we had lots of people ask us for different options. So that is probably something we will do in the future, but right now it's 5. Do you have to assign things to have them count in the grade book? Or can you grade things that are just made available to students?
So you do have an option. So available to students but not assigned will not show up in the grade book, will not track student progress. That will just be completely for practice for students. You can assign something to students and have it be ungraded. So you can still set up a due date. There will be no points associated with it, but it will be ungraded. And so when you do that, it will show up in the grade book as an item, but it won't count towards the student's overall grade. So that's the way, if you want to track the student's practice, you can assign something and make it ungraded.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about or show the learning curve adaptive quizzing?
Sure. So here I have a learning curve adaptive quiz right here. And what learning curve does is it gives students a series of questions. And those questions are each tied to a difficulty level and also to one of these subtopics for whichever chapter or area that the quiz is associated with. And so as the students answer more questions, if they're doing well in a certain topic, they're going to get more difficult questions. If they're not doing so well at a certain topic, they're going to get more practice in that topic. And so it really works to create a personalized learning experience for these students to make sure that they're all working through and getting that basic foundational knowledge for the topic that they are reviewing. And it's game-like in the sense that instead of only getting a certain number of questions and getting so many right out of that, they're going through and trying to get to a target score. And so once they hit that target score, they'll get points for the activity. And if they don't reach that target score, then they're not going to get any points for the activity. You have some customization options. You can edit the topics. So if you are not covering all 4 of these topic areas within your course, you can edit those topic areas and take out any of those topics that are not relevant. And then also, you'll be able to see your students as they complete, how many questions they've answered, whether they completed the activity or not, and how close they are to reaching that target score. And one of my favorite parts is you get to see their accuracy. So how well are my students doing on these topics? And you can come in and see if there's areas that my students need to improve on. Conversions and unit analysis are where my students are scoring the least on. So that may be something that I want to address and help them overcome. So that's a basic overview of learning curve. If you have it in your course, I recommend clicking on it, previewing it as a student, answering some questions, and getting a good sense of what it is. But it's a great tool to get students up to speed and have that learning experience that's personalized to what they currently know.
All right. Can I duplicate a custom quiz so I can assign it again as an ungraded item for practice?
Yes, you can. So if I wanted to make a copy of this homework, or if this was a quiz on the far right-hand side, I can go ahead and click on Duplicate Resource. And then I could make that copy. I can edit the name here. So this could be our practice one. And then you can choose to have that be ungraded. You can change the due date. And then you'll have a copy of that the students can use to go through and practice.
Okay. Is there a way to search the ebook?
So yeah, we didn't even really talk about the ebook. The ebook is set up in chapters and going down to individual sections. And so students can go and they can highlight, they can take notes within the ebook. There's options to have the ebook read aloud to them, as well as how they want that ebook to be viewed to be able to read it. And you can also, in most ebooks, you can jump to the certain physical page of the text. So if you have the physical book out, you can type in the page number of that physical book and be brought to that specific place. But there's not a good way yet to actually like search the ebook and look for key terms and ways to and searching for different areas. Best thing is to use the navigation here on the left.
So this is from someone who used to use Sapling and use the heat map. How do you manually reset an assignment for an individual student or reset individual questions in an assignment for a specific student, since this used to be done through the heat map and we've changed that?
Yeah, so I don't have any students in here to be able to show you exactly where that is, but what you'd do is you would come to responses, and then you would have the option here. You'd see how your students are doing, the lowest performing students, and then you'd also be able to reset specific questions here under the responses area. And we can definitely follow up and make sure you have step-by-step instructions, but it's going to be under the responses area where you can go ahead and set those individual attempts for specific students here under that responses section.
Okay. Let's see. Oh my goodness, so many questions. You people are great. Is Achieve or the ebook compatible with tablets or e-readers?
Yeah, so I like to say that Achieve is mobile friendly. And so there's not a specific app for Achieve that you download. It's all done through a browser, but it is mobile friendly as far as reading the text and even interacting with it. That being said, because there's so many browsers and browser configurations for tablets and e-readers and everything, I recommend that anything that is a high stakes assignment still be done on a computer. That way we ensure that everything is working properly and it's not some weird browser issue. But yes, students can access Achieve on their mobile devices and read the ebook and things like that.
Here's one that I will take. Is there any plan to grant partial credit for learning curve for reaching, say, 50% goal or 75% goal? We are talking about some things to do with learning curve. We also have some instructors who are interested in possibly allowing students to do it after the date, but with a penalty. So you can't get 100% if you're doing it after the date. So we are researching some options. I'm not promising anything, and certainly not by a certain date, because my team would kill me. But we are looking at some other options to improve the way learning curve works, because that adaptive quizzing tool is very, very popular for us. Okay, Will, how do you bring up the screen that listed all of the assignments at once and allowed you to change the availability and due dates on one screen?
Yeah, so if we go back to my course and click on course content, and we want to view by assignment. And so if you had just set up, made a copy of your course and you have all your past assignments due, you'll have everything under past assignments, and there'll be a view all box right here. So you want to click view all, and then you'll be able to view all your past assignments and select them all at once. And then from there, you can update all of your due dates at the same time, just like we would do here. So that's kind of the best way to be able to update your course is everything under past assignments. Make sure you click that view all, because originally I think it gives you like 5 or 6 here in this section, but if you click view all and then select all, you'll have all of your past assignments selected, and then you can edit all the due dates all at once.
Okay. How can you show how to create your own questions?
Yeah, so to create your own questions, again, you're going to access a specific homework or assignment. And then from here, instead of using the questions that are already in the assessment or questions from our question bank, you're going to click Custom Questions. And from here, what you can do is hit Add New, and you have the option of creating a multiple choice, a numeric entry question, multiple select, free response, or a math equation question. So those are the current options of types of questions that you can create on your own. You can add your own feedback or hints, everything like that with those as well. And then I'll also note that there are questions that you can customize or edit that are already within Achieve as well. And you'll notice that it'll say customizable here. And essentially what that means is you'll be able to make a copy of a particular question. So in this case, we're classifying these substances, and I can make a copy of that question. And what that does is that retains the original question, but you're able to edit the copy any way that you want. And so that's another way, if you see some questions that are close to what you want, and it has that ability to edit, you can make a copy of that question, edit it, and then add that to your assignment as well.
And I apologize if you answered this while I was trying to answer questions. If on the multi-take, is there a way to do a penalty for if you get it right on the first time, you get 100%. If you have to take 2 takes, if you only get 80%, 3 takes is 40% or anything of that nature?
I believe currently with multi-take, there's not a penalty for taking it additional times. Like Becky said, there's additional features and functionality we're looking at putting in, but they'll get their highest score from any of the takes that they took.
Okay. I think I know the answer to this, but I'll just check. Is it possible to replace a file rather than delete it and re-upload it? I think we're still at you have to delete and upload. I don't think replace came out, but
yeah, I think that's where we're at.
Okay. Okay. Here is a tough question, and she's a tough customer. So can you explain the visibility and availability when in deep integration with Canvas? And this may not be the right spot for it because we only have a couple minutes left. I think actually this, oh, go ahead, Will.
I was just going to say quickly, if you've integrated with Canvas, and I believe this is true for most LMSs, visibility settings are independent within Achieve and within your Canvas LMS. So if you have every student coming through your Canvas LMS, the visibility settings are independent. So the visibility settings don't transfer over from Achieve into Canvas or vice versa. So ideally you set them in both places, but if students are just coming through Canvas and they don't have access to, say, like a link to the Achieve homepage, you could just set the visibility settings in Canvas and have them go through there. But again, they're independent, and one does not affect the other.
Yeah, unfortunately. I don't know if you know this, I don't know this off the top of my head. If we integrate with an LMS, is there any plan to be able to make a category or unit grade with multiple assignments to transfer over, as opposed to each column assignment getting each individual assignment getting its own column?
So yes, so that is in some plans and some work and things that we're going to be working on, to be able to basically only sync category totals instead of each individual assignment grade. So we're working on that with our product team to get that available. It's not currently available, but it is something that's in the works.
Okay. I'm not actually sure what your question was referring to, because I believe this was an earlier thing. Does that, I'm not sure what that is, does that allow me to edit future assignments as well? I think this is when you were showing the batch page. Will, I'm not 100% sure though. We'll leave that one. Let's do, how can you remove an old course from the Canvas dashboard? I'm not sure we're going to get into that today, but I don't know that one off the top of my head. Do you?
If you're just talking about a specific Canvas course, that would be, specific Canvas is going to be with your IT department for Canvas. If you need to unlink a course within Canvas, unlink a Macmillan course, you can do that through the Macmillan Learning in your settings area, and then unlink a specific course to a Canvas course. But that's something, if you have specific questions about that, that's something that, our customer support team could help out with.
All right. How do you create a new practice test for multiple chapters?
So this was a question that was asked earlier. So if you want to create a new assignment, we'll say assessment, from scratch, you can come here to resources. And then instead of looking at the content library, we could go to my content. And then we're going to create something new, and we're going to create a new assessment. And in this case, what we're going to do is refresh our screen here. So what we'll do is we'll create a new assessment here. See if I can get my screen to load. Got some other courses open, and so I don't think that it likes my other course. So go back to resources. And we'll come back to my content. And again, this is if you want to create something from scratch, like your own test or quiz over multiple assignments. So here I have my unnamed assessment from today. And if I open this up, you'll be taken to your screen here, and this could be a practice test or exam 1 or quiz over multiple chapters. So we'll give it a title, we'll give it an assignment type, and then you can go right into our question bank. And from chapter 1, you can pull some questions and add those to your assessment. And then we can close chapter 1 and open up chapter 2. And we can add some questions from chapter 2, and so on and so forth. And each time your assessment grows, and then you can come back and view your assessment, update your grading settings if needed, and then add it to your course once you're all set up and ready to go. So that's the condensed version on how to set that up.
All right. I was actually answering something, so I'll just answer it out loud. Well, okay. So the question was, when an instructor assigns an Achieve test in the LMS, the test does not export to the LMS, but students access it in Achieve, and only the scores are exported to the LMS Grade Center. And I was going to say, yes, if you're doing the test in Achieve, there is the option. We do have an online test bank. So you could hypothetically, if you really wanted to, you could do a test in the through the online test bank and have that put in your LMS directly. But if you are doing the testing in Achieve, then yes, your answer is correct. Will, feel free to correct anything I said there.
No, that's right.
And the earlier question was, can you show how to get to the activities and due dates screen? That was the equivalent screen from Sapling.
Yeah, so again, that's when you have multiple assignments selected. So in this case, we can click our future assignments. And then anytime you have multiple assignments selected and click assign and edit, that gives us to our batch updating screen here.
All right, I had one more question. I was just going to, so one thing I would say to everyone who's still left, bless you, first of all, we have a ton of help articles. I have been trying to answer questions by using some of the help articles, but especially with questions about integration and things of that nature, I would recommend using some of those help articles. And also we do have training separately on integration. So just because it's such a huge topic, that might be the better way to go if you haven't had your question answered, because we're now at 3. Let me see if we have anything left that I've... Okay. I think we're temporarily, possibly all set. So for anyone who's left, we will send out the recording afterwards. It won't be like 8 seconds from now, but we will get you the recording sometime next week. We will include information about some of the new features. We'll include a link to the help articles, and we'll also include a link to training if you want to sign up for any additional trainings. Will and his team are clearly, Will knows his stuff. So that's awesome. And Karen, I'll get you the information about the LMS training. And I think that's it for today. So thank you, everyone. You've been super engaged and asking lots of questions. Will, thank you so much for your time today. I know there was a lot here. And hopefully everyone is all fired up for the start of a great new semester.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Appreciate all your time and best of luck to you this semester.
All right, thank you.